Yo, what is going on everybody? It's me, Mr. Premps, and I am back with another One Piece video. And in today's video, we're taking a look at the enigma himself, Mihawk. Now, due to the events of the Reverie, we were informed that one of the three great powers in the world, the 7 Warlord system, was abolished, and in One Piece manga chapter 956, we were told of Mihawk's excitement of this decision, as it had been such a long time since he was the one being chased. And this comment from Mihawk is just so badass, and it oozes of confidence, that it's filled so many of us with excitement because we might, and I use the word might sparingly, because we just might get to see Mihawk in action, even if it is a single panel. So in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at Mihawk, and who I think will be coming to capture him, and ultimately, what's next for him. However, before I get started, please make sure you leave a like on the video, as it helps so much with that YouTube algorithm. And if you like content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and hit bell notifications, so you never miss out when I drop more content just like this. And lastly, if you like One Piece discussions, and talking about it with others who like One Piece too, make sure you check out the Void Century Club, in which I'll leave a link to in the description to this video. But now those formalities are out of the way, let's get into this video. Now, Mihawk is known as the world's strongest swordsman and resides on Kurogane Island, which, as a fun fact, is where Kuma sent Zoro during the time skip, and also where we saw Perona. Now, Mihawk was the first warlord to be introduced to us, as we encountered him in the Barate arc when he was hunted down the Krieg pirates, and ultimately we got to see his clash with Zoro, if we can call that a clash, that is. Personality wise, I would say that Mihawk is portrayed as a serious individual, as I don't recall him seeing him laugh, and unlike many notable characters in the story, he hasn't been given one of those distinct laugh types as an identifier. However, Mihawk is indeed an individual who is prideful, as he believes that even a nick on his sword is a blemish to his pride. But personality aside, I think we all recognise that Mihawk is indeed strong. There's no way you can become a warlord of the seas if you're not. I mean, unless you're buggy. But that's a video for another day. Now, Mihawk definitely has earned the respect of many, including the likes of Whitebeard, which was hinted as he spoke about the great battle that Shanks and Mihawk had in the past. Weapon wise, we all know that Mihawk is a swordsman, and he possesses the blade Yuru, which is a supreme grade sword, and even possesses the rare black blade that we all know so little about. But without going into too much detail, just looking at Mihawk, his portrayal, his black blade, his title, and his suggested ability, he is definitely a figure to be feared and can't be taken lightly. So who really could the world government have sent to capture him? Because honestly, fodder are all irrelevant at this point. So as I've tried to come to a conclusion as to who has been sent, I've tried to use the context from the story to work this out. Now, the first piece of information that we have is that Kobe was sent to capture the pirate empress, Boa Hancock. And I've done a video on that, so make sure you check that out. But do we really believe that Kobe is enough to capture Boa? He holds the rank of a captain, which honestly, if you're asking me, it isn't that impressive in order to warrant any type of worry for a warlord. So it's been generally accepted in the community that he must be accompanied by someone else. Now, some predict that it could be an admiral, and others predict it could be a vice admiral too. But to me, this just puts into context how difficult it is to capture a warlord. And this is confirmed further as we find out at least one other individual who was sent to capture Buggy. Now, if you're asking me, Buggy is one of those characters that is always going to be alright. He's surrounded himself with so many strong individuals, so he's definitely got a crew that can protect him. But in chapter 956, we see that Vice Admiral Stainless was sent to capture Buggy, which to me shows how serious they've taken this abolishing, particularly when Buggy is no Mihawk. So the real question is, if Mihawk is who we think he is, the world government have to send at least a Vice Admiral to capture him. And if you're asking me personally again, there's only one Vice Admiral that I could trust to do that job, and that's Garp. But we know Garp was not sent. Now, if I recall correctly, he had just dropped off Shirahoshi and King Neptune back to Fishman Island, post that Reverie stuff, and I even think they offered him a cup of tea. So I don't imagine that had he been given such an important task, he would be able to have even one cup of tea. So what's next? Well, if Mihawk is who we think he is, it would be so disrespectful to send any other Vice Admiral after him. So what about the Admirals? Could Akainu have sent one of the Admirals to capture Mihawk? I'm not so sure. Looking at the story, we were told post the end of the Reverie that there was a clash that occurred between the revolutionary captains and Fujitora and Greenball, which basically means Sabo and Co caused a little stir up. I can't imagine that there were any significant injuries, but I would also not imagine that everyone left unscathed. Could Fujitora or Greenball have been sent to capture Mihawk? I don't think so. Firstly, because if Greenball was sent, it does nothing for the story. If he goes and is unable to capture Mihawk, then it downplays Greenball's strength, and I don't think Oda has held off in giving us any information about him, just to downplay him in this situation. And if Greenball does capture Mihawk, then it completely downplays Mihawk. The man who's had the aura about him for so long, now is so easily captured by a newly drafted Admiral. I don't think that does him any justice, so for that reason, we can write off Greenball. But how about Fujitora? Once again, it's unlikely, as he's just been in a clash with the revolutionaries. But taking things further, he was told that he would be unable to return to any marine base until he had killed Luffy and Law, and so I think it's highly unlikely that he's sent to Mihawk. He's more likely to go to Wano. But what I would say is, how interesting would a fight between Fujitora and Mihawk be? Two individuals that are proficient in swordsmanship battling it out. Now that's something I'd pay to see. Box office. But this leaves me with the last Admiral, and this is Kizaru. Now heritagely, I always saw Kizaru as the weakest Admiral, particularly of the OG3, and that's just because Akainu and Aokiji are just that level ahead, and they're portrayed a little bit stronger too. However, this is not to take anything away from Kizaru, because Kizaru stays ready. When he found out what was going on in Wano, he pulled up to Akainu and was like, "Yo, do you want me to go check things out?" And this just shows that even though there was a threat of 2 Yonko, Kizaru did not care. So if an Admiral was sent, it would definitely be him. But whether he could do this job alone, I really doubt it. He would definitely require the help of some subordinates and then some to capture Mihawk. But if you're asking me whether I think Kizaru was sent, then my answer is still no. And that's because there's that X factor. And who is this X factor, you might ask? Well, this is the SSG. In chapter 957, Akainu and Fujitora discuss the Warlords, with Fuji talking about putting their faith in the SSG, which is the Special Science Group. Now, if this is the power to replace the Warlords, then it's got to be extremely useful, where it can rival the likes of even Mihawk and Boa. Now, I heard quite a lot of people suggesting that the Special Science Group are some sort of modified pacifistas, but I don't think that's enough. These pacifistas would need crazy upgrades to compete with the likes of Mihawk. If you're asking me, they are going to have to introduce some sort of modified humans, almost super soldier-like, in order to compete with like Mihawk. But that's definitely a theory for another day. So as I've said, if you're asking me who's fighting Mihawk, I think it's going to be the marine introduction of the SSG, and seeing what they can do, because with everything that's going on, the best thing that they can do is test the replacement power against the previous powers and see if they truly stand a chance. Apart from that, there's a few things I've got on my mind that perhaps I'll save for another video, because who was the pirate that Shanks wanted to talk to the Gorosei about? Could it have been Mihawk? Also, what does Mihawk do next? What does he do next if he gets captured? What would that mean? And if he doesn't get captured, then what does he do? Does he go on a run? Or does he continue chilling on his lonesome on this little island? Surely Mihawk has to come into the story again really soon, and we need to learn a little bit more about him before his eventual fight with Zoro. Is there a possibility that Mihawk could lose his title to the likes of Shiryu, meaning that in the end Zoro has to end up fighting Shiryu instead of Mihawk? There's a lot of questions that I do have in my head. But I guess that just about does it from me. There's a lot of things to consider with the abolishing of this warlord system, and one of the main issues is power scaling. We all hold Mihawk to such a high regard where many think he's stronger than some of the Yonko, and therefore how could anyone quite possibly capture him? But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Mihawk gets captured, or do you think he fights his way out of this? And who do you think he will be fighting? Because that could be huge for the story going forward. But once again, if you've enjoyed anything I've had to say, please make sure you leave a like on the video, and if you like content like this, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on bell notifications so you never miss out when I drop more content just like this. Safe.